My name is Mallory. I have I don't even know how to say it. I have a YouTube channel. It's Adventure Pants McGee, and thank you for having me for this interview about Camino de Santiago. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to hear what you have to ask about it, because it's that beginner's mind, isn't it? When before you've done something, you really just want to know kind of the nuts and bolts of what it's like, really.
Yeah. I'm curious about it because I'm going to Spain and Portugal next year, and I wanted to do a part of it or all of it. So I have lots of questions. Why? So I think you said that you did a couple of routes, right?
Yeah, so last year I did the Camino Frances, which is the main route, the most famous route. It's also called the Route of St. James. And then this year I did the Camino Portuguese, well, half of it from Porto to Santiago.
Why did you choose those routes over other routes? Because I know there are quite a few.
There's loads, yeah, there's loads. I guess I only thought there was one, when I first heard about it. And, so many people talk about the Francaise, and they just speak about it fondly, and all of the people they meet along the way. And so that was what appealed to me. It appealed to me to kind of to do a long distance route, and just sort of meet people and see what unfolds as well, because I've heard a lot of stories of people changing through it. They change through doing the Camino. So it's kind of, yeah, I guess there's a romanticism to it as well. So that was what drew me to that initial route. And then the Portuguese, I just wanted to do another walk. That was, yeah. And it's easy, it's kind of set up for you. There's places along the way. You don't have to think too much about that. Whereas when you want to do a trip where you're hiking across a country, for example, or a route in Norway, you have to think about, where am I going to stay? Where am I going to camp? What am I going to, you have to think a little bit more. And I just wanted something where I didn't have to think too much.
Yeah. Did you do any camping? I'm just
No.
curious about the setup. Okay.
No, there's no need. Everywhere along the route, particularly the main route, you can stop anywhere. You don't have to plan as much. But with the Portuguese, you do have to plan. You have to be kind of, because especially in high season, it's very busy, and there's not many albergues, which is the place where you sleep. Yeah, so it's great actually. It's so nice. You don't have too much to worry about, and there will always be a place for you to stay as well. The pilgrims are
That's so nice.
very much, yeah, the pilgrims are very much kind of held by the community, because the route is, their people are dependent on people walking every year. The
Right.
economy is built around it as well.
That's cool. Did how far are the routes that you did?
So officially, the route of the Francaise is 780 kilometers. But it's sometimes a little bit more than that if you kind of. I went by my Fitbit, and so I did about 900 kilometers, and I did a little bit of extra walking at the end as well, towards
For
Finisterre.
fun.
So yeah. So officially on your certificate, it will say 780 or 790. And then the Portuguese route is officially 260, I think, or 280, something like that, from
You get a
Porto.
certificate?
You do, you get the Compostela.
What?
It's amazing, yeah. So you have to queue up, and you have all your stamps from your Camino passport, and yeah, just to prove that you've done the Camino, and you get that in the places you stay. And you have to get 2 stamps a day on the last 100 kilometers as well. So that's really important to be able to get the certificate.
Yeah. Did you do any training at all? Because that's a long distance.
Yeah, a lot of people train. They do kind of get ready and prepare for it, but other people don't train as much. So I think it depends on your fitness. If you're quite fit, you could do it, and you can start off slow and go at your own pace. And it's, you just take each day as it comes. Some people use it as an endurance challenge. So they're from the military, or they're from kind of a background like that, quite athletic, and they might take on 50 kilometers a day, So everyone does it. Yeah, everyone does it so differently. Yeah, it depends on the person. For me, I didn't train as such, but I was walking a lot that summer, and over the years before that. So I did there's a coastal route in England. It's 620 miles. And I did about a third of that before I went on the Camino. So I was used to walking a long time, and I would do it over a weekend and camp. And then, so that was a little bit different, but it was good preparation. It didn't feel hard then. And like me and my friend, we didn't get blisters, whereas everyone around us had blisters. So I think that's probably why.
Yeah, I am definitely prone to blisters. What coastal side of England is that route?
So southwest, so Devon and
Okay,
Cornwall, yeah,
that's so nice.
yeah.
Did you? I know that some routes can have apps that go along with them. Are there any for Camino de Santiago, or did you download any to help?
Oh, there's quite a few, yeah. So one of the main ones I'd recommend is Camino Ninja, and that covers all of the Camino routes. And the guy who made the app, he walked all of the routes. He was dedicated to finding all the best kind of most suitable accommodation, things you should be aware of on the route, and where there's gravel spots. And he was very dedicated to it. He actually died while I was on the Camino Portuguese. So yeah, it's now people, yeah, they're kind of honoring him by downloading the app, in a sense. And actually, it was amazing he did, and it was all for free, and it's a free app. So
Oh wow.
I don't really know. I don't know the backstory that much, but I know that he was dedicated to the Camino. And then there's the Buen Camino app as well. That was really good. I used that more on the first one than on the second one.
How did these apps help?
Well, I guess it gives you a sense of certainty. My friend Barnaby was using the Buen Camino app all the time, whereas I just kind of got up and walked, and I kind of let him take the lead a little bit with some of the initial bits, because I was quite happy to stop anywhere, and he was more happy to push on and try and do long distances, which we did do. And then for the second walk, I kind of took more of the lead for that one. So it is good to help you to figure out where you want to stop and to work out your days. If you've only a set amount of days, you can look at the route and you can think, where will I stop? What towns will I stop in? Where you could stop for lunch somewhere, or where will I sleep for the night? So, and the apps kind of show you, the main, like, this is a place where you can buy things, if you're like, if you need shoes or socks or something that that your shoes have given up or something, so it's quite good.
Okay, so it tells you where like shops and places to sleep are.
Yeah,
That
nice. Yeah.
that's really helpful. When did you mentioned that like some people can only have or usually could do the Camino de Santiago in a certain amount of days? Did you have time restrictions that you had to work with?
So I didn't really have any time restrictions. That was mainly because I was on a sabbatical, so I had a
Nice.
lot of time. It was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just like open, which is great. I could take my time. I didn't have to rush. There was a lot of people that had to cut the route short and go home early because they didn't time it quite right and things like that. But on the
Mhm.
second route, I was very, I had leave, and I had to be, I had to be back in a certain amount of time. And so I was kind of more conscious of that on the second time.
Right.
But there
What?
is something about walking for 30 days that I felt was more freeing in a sense. You just sort of, the structures of society fall away, and you're just like walking. And yeah, it's really nice. Really, really nice.
Yeah, you're able to focus on the journey and not the end, like looking always towards the end.
Yeah, which we tend to do a lot in society, don't we? We're always focused on the outcomes and where we're going to get to, but actually, it's nice to just focus on the journey, the day to day.
Yeah. Maybe I should take a sabbatical.
Yeah, do it.
What time of year did you go, and like how did you feel about that time of year that you chose? Because I know that Spain can get very hot, and I don't even know if it snows there.
Yeah, so actually, so one thing that me and my friend, he's kind of my walking buddy. So we kind of used to do a lot of walking together when I lived in England. And one of the things that we realized is even in England, we didn't function so well in the heat. You know, we'd really struggle with walking. And, you know, sometimes on that coastal path, you know, people actually train for the Alps there because it's very up and down.
Cool.
Yeah. And so it was, yeah, it was something that we realized straight away. We're okay in the rain, we're okay in the cold, but the heat we just can't do. So it was all timing, really. And I would say that we chose that time of year, but it just sort of happened that way. And we were lucky because October was it was amazing. The weather was perfect for people who like kind of cold but still warm, sunny weather. It was in between, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and it would have been in between all the whole way, but then we both got COVID, so we had some time out, and then it was snowing when we
No.
returned. Yeah, it was just it was okay. I was okay in terms of being well, and my friend wasn't so okay, but he was all right in the end. You know, we were both walking in the end, so that was good. But
Oh,
because
yeah.
yeah,
Making it to the finish line.
yeah, it kind of meant even more at that point, you know, actually making it to Santiago after all that time, because really it was 41 days. It wasn't even 30 days. It was the 41 days because we had to take the time out. So
Yeah.
um, we're lucky we both
What?
had time in a sense.
Yeah. What did you do? Like, okay, I have so many questions now, more questions because because COVID is a real possibility on the trail.
Yeah.
So, when did you think that you had it?
Oh, I blocked it out from my memory now. No, so there was a lot of people. So there was a rumor. So we had arrived in this city, and there was a rumor that someone in the albergue had been sent to hospital and had COVID, and then it turned out to be true. And so, you know, all of us did a test, and we were okay, and then we decided we'd get private rooms instead of getting albergues and continue, which maybe doesn't seem like a good option, but it was kind of one of those things where what do you do at that point? Because if you get on a plane, you might spread COVID. If you stay anywhere, you might spread it. So you're kind of on the road at that point. It's a difficult one ethically. Some people just continue and stay in the albergues, which is really sad. Like you can see that they have a cough,
Yeah.
you can see that they're sick and they're still continuing. I think that's really bad because anyone around you could get sick, you know. But
Yeah.
we stayed in private places and we continued, and we stayed away from people until we kept testing, and we were COVID free, you know, like it was just not coming up, and we were doing the tests like every day. And then a few days later, of course, it appeared. But yeah, it's a hard one. It's a really hard one. Um,
Did did it take you out? Like you were not walking those days?
yeah, when once we tested positive, we isolated. So that's yeah, we kind of isolated, and yeah, it didn't take me out physically. I don't know why. I would
That's good. That's good
yeah,
though. I'm glad.
I was fine. I could have continued walking. That's the thing. Like in terms of, but I couldn't do that because I didn't want to make anyone else sick. You know, so that was my
Yes.
reasoning. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Um, that's amazing. Okay. Uh, so sorry. Back to the route. Also, I'm just gonna turn off my light real quick. It's unnecessary now. Okay. Um, it looked like. in your videos that you're making some stops at museums and at restaurants and at little shops
Yeah.
where they sell trinkets and whatnot. And then you mentioned the app, so I'm thinking that those all of those stops were on the app, maybe.
Not really. It was I wasn't that intentional about where I wanted to go, I guess. It was kind of I was just more letting things unfold a little bit. I did hear about Ernest Hemingway's cafe. I
Hmm.
can't remember where that was now. Was it Leon? Oh, I can't remember, but it was really beautiful, so beautiful inside, really old worldy, and I really made an intention of stopping there. But other than that, that was, yeah, it was just kind of seeing what happened, seeing something beautiful, going walking in, stopping in the cafes when we felt hungry, or we brought some lunch as well, packed some lunch and ate along the way as well. So um, sometimes planning can help though, because I think there was a food festival in one of the cities and we missed
Oh,
it.
cool.
So yeah, I was like, oh, if we'd planned a little better, we would have known to go in and things like that. But we had a nice pilgrim meal anyway. So
Yeah. I I'm a huge planner, so I would probably be like more on the over planning part of it. But I really respect people that can go with the flow also. Just because like I'm not able to.
oh, I totally understand you because I was
Yeah.
like that as well for a long time. And the reason that shifted is because I went traveling in Asia, and then after that, I became way more like allowing things a little bit more. But I think you need a
Yeah.
balance of the two to really in anything in life. It needs to be the balance, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it sounded like kind of like you had a balance, like you had the app if you needed it,
Yeah.
but you're allowing things to happen. That's really cool. Um, was along the route and the time that you went, was there any inclement weather, like rain?
And when we reached to Galicia, there was a lot of rain. It was like being in Ireland, and there was lots of stone walls around and greenery, and it was just like being back in Ireland. And one particularly rainy day where we got soaked to the bone. But yeah, other than that, it was good weather, and the snow as well in the mountains, which was beautiful. But
Mm, that sounds
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, and it was like the most snow they'd gotten at that time of year in 100 years or something like that. So it was quite a cool place to be. And you come into this little village, Osabiro, and it's like Hogwarts um, kind of that
Like
village that goes to
Hogsmeade?
Hogsmeade. Yeah, yes,
Yeah, but uh-huh.
it's just magical. Like it's unbelievable. Even the footage I got wasn't that good because it was really snowing, and it was so dark and everything. But like there was such a magical feel, and oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, sometimes the video you just can't capture the feeling, and maybe it is too dark, but your eyes can see it and you're trying to capture it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get
exactly.
that. So along the route also, what other kind of travelers did you meet? It looked like you met a ton.
Yeah, and there was people from all backgrounds and people from all over the world, and which was surprising in some ways because although there wasn't that many pilgrims, it was quite quiet comparatively to what I've heard it is outside of COVID times because it was still kind of coming towards the end of that period. It was 2020, end of 2021, and
Hmm.
so but it was great, people from all ages. And I remember someone saying to me, oh, I could never stay in a hostel now, a friend. And actually it's not a hostel really. It is a hostel, but it's more all walkers. They're all in the same mindset. There's nobody staying up mad late, drinking or anything like that. It's
Hmm.
everybody is there to kind of rest and eat some food and have a chat and then go to sleep early. So it's a different atmosphere to youth hostels, I guess. And so it's respectful, and it's people of all ages kind of mixing and speaking about things, speaking about life and speaking about where they're from and their stories. And yeah, it's amazing really. I don't think you can get that quite in everyday in everyday kind of
Right.
experiences.
Yeah, usually it's pretty shallow conversation, like how's the weather, how are you doing? But it sounded like you went really, really deep there.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It gives people an opportunity to. I guess that's like any traveling though as well, isn't it? You know, when you're traveling, you're more open to speaking about things.
Mhm. Mhm. Were there any stories that particularly impacted you?
Yeah, yeah. There was one in particular. It was a man from the US actually, and he'd lost his wife in a car accident. And he was walking the Camino a year later, and he was just. I think it was part of the process for him, and actually he was talking to people about it, and he was crying sometimes, and he was just sort of letting it. I didn't see him crying, but he spoke to us about when he was walking, he would be thinking about her, and that really kind of yeah, it really kind of touched me. And also the he lost her because it was a drink driver, so he was trying to raise awareness on that as well. So yeah, that was the
Yeah.
biggest story. I think that kind of there was another man who lost his wife to COVID as well, which was really
Oh
sad.
man.
So people have stories. Some people are kind of they're taking a break, a career break, or they're starting a new job and it's the time in between, or they're retired. So there's loads of stories and loads of people from I would say there's not that many people in their early 20s. I'd say it's more later 20s and above and right up to 60, 70. So it's like yeah, a whole range of people.
Yeah. So I fit right in. That's great. Did you feel like you met more people when you went on your own the first time or with your friend? But it sounds like you also had like a traveling companion on your first trip.
Yeah, so my first trip was with a friend as well. So yeah, it was
Okay.
two kind of yeah. So I think
Got it.
yeah, so maybe next time I might do one alone, but it's so nice to have someone who knows you well and you're both kind of familiar with your walking pattern as well, walking
Yeah.
pace and speed. And I think that matters more than you realize, in a sense of if you both have the same pace, you're going to want to stop at the same time and you're kind of in flow with each other. Whereas we'd meet people and you'd connect, but you might not see them till the end of the day because we might be faster. We were usually a little bit faster, but or we might be slower. So it's sort of, but you kind of, yeah, everybody has their natural pace, I think. And if you push that, that can be hard on your body.
Mhm. Mhm. Did it seem like most of the people were taking their time, like at a leisurely pace, or was it more like I need to get to my next location so that I can sleep?
No, it did feel more like people were kind of taking their time. Yeah, it did. But there was some people who were really taking their time. They were like 10 kilometers a day, which sounds like a lot when you're not doing it, but 10 kilometers a day is like 2 hours walking. So it's sort of it's really slow. And they
Yeah.
were kind of more of the mindset, stop and eat a big dinner, and they're kind of on holidays, so that's fair enough. That everybody has their own way.
Yeah, enjoying the view and
Yeah.
how so okay, when you're saying kilometers, I really don't have any idea because I use miles. And even then, I have a poor sense of how far that is unless I'm actually walking it. So I roughly know what 20 miles feels like to walk. How many kilometers, and then I'll just look it up later. How many kilometers a day were you walking? Or are you trying to walk?
um so I'm also terrible with kilometers and miles, and so yeah, like Europe works in kilometers and the UK works in miles, so it's kind of it gets really confusing.
Oh, that's why you mentioned the coastal in miles. I was like, why is she switching?
Yeah. So it's really, and
Okay.
Ireland was miles for ages, and then I think about 5 years ago it changed to kilometers. So yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah, okay, okay. But okay, in
um,
kilometers, you could say in kilometers how many were you walking with your friends every day, about on average?
Comfortably 28, I would say. That was the best because it would push you and it was kind of challenging, but it was also not too much. And then other times as high as like 30, 35, one day 40 even. Like so, but that's too much, you know. So I think it's like, yeah, I think 28 is perfect. But some people did a little bit less than that. You could do
Mhm.
20 as well, you know. That's 4 hours walking. So
And you had a bag the whole time, it seemed. What is it more like backpacking just without the tent and sleeping bag?
So that's where me and Barnaby were at an advantage actually, because when we were doing the coastal path, we had our bags and we had tents as well. So we had all that weight, you know, tents, sleeping bag, cooking stuff.
Hmm.
Whereas on the Camino, all you need is your sleeping bag and your clothes and your walking poles if you're using them. So yeah, it was brilliant. And if you have a good bag, you're sorted, you know, like an
Yeah,
osprey or something that's going to actually support your back and support the weight and even the weight out. But if you don't have a good bag, I think it's really hard going, you know, because you're actually really holding the weight. It's not kind of centered on your body and yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Bags are super important because yeah, balance and all that. What on the route again? What was your favorite food that you had?
Well, you get sick of meat and chips pretty quickly.
Sure. Yeah.
Particularly, I'm mostly vegetarian, so you know. Then when I
Oh.
went on this route, obviously, there's no way on earth you can be vegetarian unless you're really intentional again and not eating the pilgrim meal. You know, so it's sort of um, it was a lot for me initially to get used to that, but it was okay. You know, it was fine, and the food, I mean, controversial opinion, the food isn't actually that good on the pilgrim walk because they're
Mm.
trying to give you fuel. You know, it's more about fuel. Initially, we were amazed. You know, we are like, wow, we're getting all of this food for €10. It was starter, main, dessert, bottle of wine. You know, it was a big
Whoa.
meal, huge meal. But when you're kind of 25 days into that, it's not as appealing. So it's sort of, the tortilla was probably the best in Spain, I would say, tortilla. And then occasionally you'd get something really amazing on the menu. Like there was a chickpea stew and, sometimes some really good desserts. And our last meal was amazing. The last meal on the second or on the last night before we reached Santiago. We couldn't find anywhere to eat. We were like kind of thinking there's nowhere good and we wanted a nice meal on the last night and we went into this kind of place that looks more like a cafe and there was a lot of Spanish people in there and she said to us, oh, are you going to Santiago? And we were like, yeah, and of course it looked like we were because we had our hiking gear on. But yeah, she came out with a like glass of kind of prosecco and just like the most amazing meal. Like, and it was still pilgrim prices, so it was just fantastic and unexpected. It was lovely.
That's cool. So you've been saying pilgrim meal and pilgrim prices. What can you explain a little bit about that? Because I haven't heard of those. I'm guessing it's
Yeah,
just like cheaper set meals.
it's like a set meal. It's menu la dia, kind of menu of the day. It's a set meal, but it's particularly a pilgrim menu for because they know that the pilgrims are kind of coming, so they set it up, and then everybody goes in together, and you meet other pilgrims, and it's in the restaurants, and sometimes, so sorry, sometimes there's Spanish people there as well, and so it's kind of yeah, it's just kind of part of it, and you really want the pilgrim menu because it's better value. It can be anything from €8 to €12, but usually around 8 or 10.
Okay.
And in some places, some albergues they actually cook as well. That was less so during the pandemic, but there were some places we went to where I think actually one of the best kind of meals en route was in an albergue and it was with the other pilgrims. And it was Something significant about that date. I can't remember what it was. Oh, there was one of the birthdays. Someone had a birthday who was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was that gentleman I mentioned who lost his wife. So yeah, and then yeah, it was really nice. It was yeah, it was just a lovely, like we arrived and we were tired, and this was the first day we started walking again after having COVID. And I think Barnaby in particular was really struggling because he had gotten quite sick. And when we arrived, it was beautiful. Like there was soup, and this was all included in our price of staying at the albergue as well. And the woman was amazing. She'd done the Norte and the Primitivo, and she was with her other Camino walks, and she had just was full of stories. And oh, it was, yeah, it was a lovely night, really lovely night.
It's so beautiful. You said that man was American. I'm guessing the people that are hosts of the albergues are Portuguese and Spanish. Do you know any Spanish? I know that Duolingo was mentioned at some point in your videos.
Yeah, so we were trying to learn as we went along. And we met a Spanish guy as well, and he was helping us to learn. And yeah, he was kind of proud of us when we would go up and ask various questions to whoever we were buying coffee from, not just asking for a coffee, but kind of adding sentences in. And yeah, just learning. It was really nice, because my brother lives in Mexico, so I really want to learn Spanish. Like next year is going to be my year of getting better at Spanish. But yeah, so it was nice because you're in it, so you're immersed, and you have to kind of make that effort. So it's good.
Yeah. Well, you're. It seems like you're kind of immersed, but the pilgrims seem to come from all over, so there might not really be a need to speak Spanish, or like you could get by. Um, would it have helped to know more though?
I think you just need basic Spanish, and I think you can, as you said, get away without. But I think it's really nice to be able to speak to people, and people like that when you're in their country, that you'll make an effort to even do something as simple as order a coffee in Spanish rather than being, just using English. And actually, it's so easy just to say, that you want a coffee, or you want a beer, or that like, so it's sort of like it sort of becomes something that you get into, and it's lovely because it's every day and it becomes a pattern. It's nice.
Yeah. What just overall, what would you say that you learned either about yourself or your friend or life?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, yeah, take your time.
I think what I learned is it's the people around you that matter the most. And actually, that um, the people you kind of surround yourself with. And yeah, I think that was it really. Yeah, I think that was the main thing. And that's what's important in life. It's like the people in our lives, the people that we love and the people in our lives are the most important. It's not because life, everything comes and goes, doesn't it? People get very focused on jobs and sort of things they need to achieve and places they want to go, and people, so it's sort of that kind of, some people get into kind of, I guess, a corporate mindset or a corporate ladder sort of sense of approaching life. And I think
Mhm.
all of that can come and go. There will always be jobs, there will always be courses, there will always be those sorts of things, but people really are what count. And actually, sometimes people won't always be there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As for that man who lost his wife unexpectedly. So yeah.
Did you grow closer to the people that you hiked with or traveled with?
Definitely. I would say it's definitely, yeah. So my friend I went with over the summer, I'd known her for 17 years, so we're pretty close already.
Yeah.
But we actually, I think that's always going to be something we did together. It's special.
Mhm.
And you know, we would be talking for hours every day, you know, for all that time. And it's the same with Barnaby. You know, I think we would say that we know each other very very well. So you know, it's sort of it. You definitely will get closer. And they say that, you know, if you're about to get married to someone or you're already married, apparently it solidifies things, and you know whether you want to marry them after doing 30 days of walking with them. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's, you know, if it works or not, or if arguments come up and things like that. So,
Yeah. One of my first trips with my partner was on a cruise ship. So it was like tight like confined area.
yeah,
So yeah, it really makes or breaks a relationship traveling with someone in close quarters, and especially that long of a time, like 41 days or 40, whatever, how many ever days you traveled.
yeah,
That's a long time. So yeah,
yeah,
it really, I'm sure, solidified those friendships.
yeah, it's really good.
On Yeah, on the route, getting back to those stops that you made along the way, which ones were some of your favorites?
I think Osabiro was so memorable because of the snow. Um, and the Meseta was amazing as well. Everybody talks about the Meseta as this dreaded thing because it's a big plane of nothingness is what it's kind of cast as. But I think if you're in the depths of summer and you're walking through there, I can imagine it's not nice at all because there's nowhere to shelter and it's, you know, it is like a little bit of a desert. But at that time of year, it's just beautiful. You know, it's kind of rolling a little bit. It rolls and it's there is some flat bits, but it moved for the most part. It kind of rolls, and you kind of there's a beautiful bit where you I think it's Fermista. Fermista is the name of the town, and you kind of you go into it. It's almost like there's nothing, and then the town is there. You're almost walking down into it. So that was amazing. Yeah, I would say the Meseta was amazing. There was one part, honestly, there was one part which was brutal. And there was no stops for like 7 hours, or there was nothing for seven
Ugh.
hours, and there was mist all around. It was a very misty day. And I think it almost broke us all. There was four of us walking together at that point, and we were just like all walking separately and just like very much like the mist was getting to us.
Yeah, into your
um,
heads.
yeah, yeah. And then eventually we reached this lovely little cafe. And it was cafe bar, and they had like it was the best tortilla of the whole time. And it was like, oh, this is good.
Oh, yeah, respite.
It made up for it. It made up for the 7 hours of foggy walking.
That's a long time. Were at that point were you just like, I don't want to talk. I'm just trying to get through this.
Yeah, it felt quite dreamlike in a sense. And also like because there was that build up of, you know, the Meseta was meant to be the horrendous thing because they break it into three parts. So there's like the first part is meant to be hard on your body, the second part's meant to be hard on your mind, and the last is kind of meant to be the spiritual awakening in a sense. And that middle part was amazing for most of it, but then the last bit was really hard on your mind. I don't know what it was. I think it was the mist as well. Like you can imagine, it was so atmospheric as well. It was like it was kind of dragging you down, you know, that sort of it would be perfect for like a book or a movie. It's like that kind of
The
really
mist
atmospheric.
rolled in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mist rolled in and like just kind of took you over.
They
You
just
couldn't
kind of
see
stayed with
anything.
you.
Like all you could see was mist, mist from here, mist,
Like,
mist everywhere. Yeah.
wait, like how dense was it? Like, how far were you able to see?
Oh, not very far at all. Like I couldn't even see the people behind me. So I couldn't see the people behind me or ahead of me. And sometimes I would see a glimmer of them. So it was like it was like being in a dream. It was very, very odd. Yeah.
People disappearing
Yeah.
from the mist.
Yeah. And your hair was kind of wet as well, because I guess it was kind of wet mist, you know. So it was,
Mhm.
yeah, it was pretty
That's fun.
depressing, I would say. That was a pretty depressing part.
Ooh. Okay, so mentally prepared. What for my trip next year, what would you recommend be packed?
Well, I do have a packing list, so you can check out the video. There's a video on that, and
Excellent.
I have a website, so like there's a on Tangerine Horizons, there's like a list. But I would just say pack light. You know, be very essentialist. You could have everything, you know, out and just look at it, and then think, what do I actually need to bring? Because people send home things. You know, they post home things because they brought too much with them. So yeah,
Yeah.
just I would say your backpack, your sleeping bag, depending on what time of year you're going, maybe you'll only need a sleeping liner. Um, the clothes you need, and you know, that varies on who you are, I guess, like men versus women. It's sometimes nice to bring like a scarf or something that feels like kind of, well, for me, I felt like it was nice to have something that was kind of feminine and it wasn't like hiking gear all the time. You know, I had a nice colorful scarf that I wore for
Yeah.
dinner in the evenings. So yeah, and it's light as well. It's so light, and actually, it was really handy because it was in the heat. It was handy just to put it over in Portugal because it was too hot.
Yeah, and
And
you like dip
then
it in water and then it's like cooling you the whole time.
yeah, and then the other thing is I didn't know that actually. I've never tried that.
Oh. It's very hot in Texas.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I probably wouldn't survive there.
Yeah, it's so hot. Yeah.
And then in the cold, it's an extra layer as well, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's nice. Okay. So I'll check out that packing list. What is next for you?
I think I want to, I know you've done it. I think I'm going to do the West Highland Way yeah, in spring.
That's so
Yeah.
fun. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, it looks really good. Like, is there anything you recommend in terms of preparation for that? Or?
That one, I really liked the travel service that carried my bag everywhere. And I have the name of it. I can send it. It's like uh, Go Haggis is the name of it.
Okay.
The guy picked me up from um, a city, like one of the main cities, and of course I'm gonna blank on everything right now. But then took me to the trailhead, and it was 5 days. If you have longer, I would recommend taking your time because I did 20 miles a day, which was not super fun. So
Okay.
I'd recommend like 6 or 7. Like the Camino de Santiago, it sounds like it's there are several places to stay along the way. I don't think you'll get tired of the food. There's a variety, and it's not at pilgrim prices. They're like regular prices.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
um, but yeah, and I just had a day pack with the bare essentials since I knew that I would see my bigger pack at the end of each day.
Well, that's really cool. That
Yeah,
reminds me, actually, that's something you can do in the Camino as well, and it's really cheap. It's apparently a fiver or something to get your bag kind of transported.
I would totally do that. Okay. But at
Yeah,
that point, you would need to make sure that you get to your destination by the end of the day, right?
yeah, that would be if you're good at planning. I mean, then you'll be fine
Yes.
because you'll know, you know.
Yeah. So that was a big incentive of like making the 20 miles because a couple of times I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Like maybe I should just stop here without a tent and without a sleeping bag. But no, I did.
Uh,
And at each of the stops there was a shower, thank goodness, and a couple of the stops had really cool pubs.
oh, that's cool. So did you how did you decide to do that? Like, because obviously you're in Texas, so
Yeah, I love traveling, and when went to my trip to the UK, I wanted to hit everything because I don't know when I'm going to be able to go next.
yeah,
So I wanted to go to Wales and England and Scotland since they're all on the same island.
yeah.
And um and so I planned my trip. I got into Manchester for an ultimate frisbee game, which I played in, and then right after that, I went to Glasgow is the name of the city. I went to Glasgow,
yeah,
and then like because of my plans, I had only 5 days to do the West Highland Way. And then I went and did the rest of my England and visited Wales for like a really nerdy Doctor Who exhibit. It was great.
Yeah. So you saw those things in Glasgow, the blue sort of, I don't watch Doctor Who, but they have those kind of blue things that are in Doctor Who. Yeah.
The phone booth, the blue phone booth. Yeah, I saw one when I came back. There was a pub that was in an old church, it seemed like, and it was really beautiful. And right across the street was a TARDIS, which is that blue phone booth. Yeah. But yeah, it was a really, really fun journey, and I didn't take a sabbatical, which if you have leave or a sabbatical, so you can take your time with that. But it's if you've done the Camino, so it's going to be a piece of cake for you.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's more mountainous, maybe. I don't know.
It's really mental walking long distances. I think that so it wasn't hot when I went at like in summer. I think it went in August. Yeah, August. And it was actually like quite cool and rainy. So very, very just different not from Texas climate. Like in August, I was escaping the peak of our heat, our hottest season.
Yeah.
And just like jumping into like I need a jacket. But I'm very wimpy when it comes to the cold. Like I'm wearing like a sweater right now, like 2 layers, and it is maybe in the 60s. So not actually that cold for everyone else.
So it must have been a bit of a shock to the system in August to be surrounded by rain and...
Yes, it was. At one point I got lost too. I think it was the first or second day. And because there are 2 routes up there. There's the West Highland Way, and then there's like it's the name of a person.
Is it John Muir Way?
Yes, that's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And I followed the wrong route, and I ran into these two old gentlemen, and I said, "Is this the right way? Am I going the right way?" Yeah. And I said, "No, you're not."
Oh no!
And they drove me to like back a ways so that I could get back on the trail, and they were very, very sweet, and everyone was nice, and definitely like the Camino. Lots of international travelers. So,
that sounds brilliant. Really good. Really looking forward to it now.
Yes. Yeah. Are you gonna post videos about that one too?
Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
You should. It's so fun. Yeah. If I could go back, I would definitely take video.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the views because I imagine it will be beautiful. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's all my questions that I had for you. I'm sure I'll come up with more, but for now.
Yeah, that was lovely. That was a lovely chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thank you. Yeah.